Davies in the middle. Checks back against Carter and scores. That is atypical for the Amina Margot.
Quickly gets it back again. Oh, what a goal! Well, that sums up her season. The Gunners are WSL champions.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the final preview episode of the Vic Akers Wonderland Podcast for this season. It's Arsenal versus Brighton. It's all come full circle at the very end, and I think we're mixture of gutted and maybe relieved. I think it's all the overriding emotions that this season is almost at an end. Joining me to discuss all things Arsenal, Brighton, and quite a lot in between is, of course, the lovely Lottie. Lottie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Ready for the season to end. Ready for tomorrow. It's going to be a good one, and hopefully the weather will be all right as well.
And of course, the magnificent Matt, who is donning a magnificent cap. Matt, you're coming down for this one, aren't you?
I was originally, but I can't make it.
No, sorry.
So my last game was against Everton. It's a bit of a shame, really, but yeah, thank you to Arsenal Awards because the hat is quite lovely. Don't forget to do your awards, by the way, people. There's a lot of good opportunities out there as well, not just the hats and beanies and things like that. There's all foam fingers if you're one of those fans.
Yeah, I mean, I spent my points wisely on a lucky draw to go to do a tour of the training centre, see if I get lucky. But joining me for this very special preview, the final preview episode of the season, we've gone big for this one. We've brought out the big guns, all the way from the Gooner. Please give a big shout of Getcha Gooner for the fantastic Freddie Cardi. Welcome back to the show, Freddie.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, Getcha Gooner indeed. It's a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me.
No, the pleasure was ours. Now, you were last on when we did, was it previewing Everton at the start of the year? So you were there at the beginning of the year and now you're up to the end of the season. A lot has happened since you were last on the show, which we will get to. Because I think the work you're doing at the moment is absolutely fantastic and needs to be discussed. Before we begin, we're going to start with the old icebreaker. And for those of you following the Arsenal Twitter feed will have noticed that Lotte recently went back to her old school to see where she grew up playing football and trying to inspire youngsters. So my question to you is, when you were at school, what player of the current Arsenal team would you have loved to have had come to your school and inspire you to follow football and follow women's football by extension? Matt, you're wearing the hat. I'll go to you first. Who would you love to have had walk in through the doors when you were at primary school or secondary school?
Well, funny enough, the closest player that actually lived near us. So I grew up in a little village in Bedfordshire. So the nearest Arsenal player around us would have actually been Leah Williamson.
Ah, and that would have been a stonking guest to turn up because we see her all the time on the news when she visits, especially like around Milton Keynes and stuff. And she is as much as inspiration, I'd say, as Lotte, probably even more. I could totally get behind that, and I think she'd be a fantastic special guest. Lottie, who would you like to have turn up and inspire you?
A little bit of a cop out, but it has to be Lotte. Being an East London primary school girl myself, it's got to be done.
Well, yeah.
I mean, just to add to what you said earlier, she did actually start the girls' team over there because she was sick of playing with the boys.
Yes, she did.
So, it's got to be Lotte Withermoy. Sounds like a cop out, but it's got to be Lotte. I just adore that woman.
I mean, she was an inspiration when she was even at school. I mean, we see all the amazing things just now, but she was like that I just can't think of. I mean, I certainly couldn't do what she'd done. I like the popularity for starters, but it's just incredible just how driven she is to make change. And even at that young age, it was that I'm not going to accept the status quo. I want to make a positive change, and she was doing that whether at primary school or convincing the government to invest in PE lessons for women to learn to play football as a kid, as they should. Freddie, Who would you have liked to have walked through the gym hall and preached to the masses at assembly?
I think from a primary school perspective, I think having Katie McCabe come in, I think you'd have a couple of hours, wouldn't you? You'd probably be out having a kickabout. You'd have a quite a colourful sort of assembly, and I'd have to sort of hear about her backstory and just getting a take on the game and other sort of parts of life. I think I'd imagine she'd be quite inspiring, and a few more things as well. It'd be a lot of fun.
I mean, I'm very tempted just to go cop out local hero Alessia Russo, but no, I'll be honest, and I think the person who could be a really good inspiration would be Kim Little, and bring that somebody who has seen everything pretty much in the women's game, the amount of knowledge she could pass on to, not just knowledge but leadership, and how to well, we see what she's like on the pitch. I think she would bring a lot about winning mentality, leadership, bravery, courage, talent. I think she would be a great preacher to the masses and inspiring young fans.
Adam, would anybody like Viv to come? I was expecting.
Well, I think Viv is such an obvious answer. It's. I would imagine if we, let's say, our guests were of the more orange variety, shall we say, I imagine all of them, and rightly so, would go for
Leo.
Viv.
We are talking to you about that.
Well, no, not yes to Leah, but I think many other Netherlands fans would say, and not to try and rehash our previous pod, and also say thank you so much for those of you who actually tuned into our previous episode about Viv Miedema. The feedback's been pretty good. Plenty of people tuned in, and it sounds like people enjoyed it. They've shared it about. We loved it, and we really enjoyed making it, and we think hopefully we put some smiles on some faces during what was a very sort of troubled day. I think we can all agree. But yeah, I think from the Netherlands perspective, I think a lot of young Netherlands fans having Viv come through and inspire them, absolutely. And that would probably be a fair shout. But no, Kim Little for me, flying the flag for the United Kingdom. That's a very good segue, Lottie, because you have mentioned Vivian Miedema. Departures is the opening gambit of our news, our opening topic, and there have been 3. Viv, we have spoken to death about, as I mentioned on the previous episode. So we won't go into too much detail from all of us, apart from I just want to get your quick shout on this, Freddie. What is firstly, in terms of Viv, what's your view on her as a player, what she's meant to Arsenal, and maybe how you reacted to how this all panned out, because you were obviously reporting on this for the Gooner.
I think you can describe it as a gamble, can't you, from Jonas Eidevall, because it's one that it could be quite a safe bet, and that she goes on, she continues maybe to not quite find the form that she had before, the form that we know she can get back to, but obviously she's had to come back from this ACL injury. It's sort of 2 factors. It's her working in a Jonas Eidevall system, but it's also the confidence and the physical ability. She's obviously been knocked back by these knee injuries after coming back from the ACL, which we all know is, just how difficult it is. You're never going to come back out there and be the same player again. Has she had enough time to really get back to those heights before? I don't think so. But, football's a brutal game, and, clubs have got decisions to make every year. And unfortunately, sometimes players like Viviane Miedema, have to be a bit of a victim of that in some ways. If she goes away to Manchester City and they, win everything, because they really could, if she went to somewhere like City and linked up with Bunny Shaw and the 2 wingers they've got and that City team, then Arsenal will regret this decision. There's no other way around it, because it's one that could pan out to be really poor, but it's one where if Viv goes away and maybe still continues to struggle a bit and isn't used well by the next manager she links up with, then maybe Arsenal will feel they've made the right decision. I think I understand certainly the fans. There's been a lot of debate this week, and when you let an Arsenal legend go, you can't brush that under the carpet. You're going to have to face questions, and you're going to have to answer them. And Jonas Eidevall maybe has tried to play them with a bit of a straight bat, and he's probably just trying to get to the end of the season, isn't he? He knows he's got 1 press conference left. He's got 1 post-match huddle with us lot on Saturday, and that will be that. But it's a huge call from Arsenal, particularly reportedly not offering her a new contract. I think if there was a contract on the table and then it was in Viv's hands to sign it, it would have been very different. But for Arsenal to leave out a player like Viv Miedema of their future plans, it's a bold statement, and they've got to back it up now.
Just before we move on, just want to quickly from you, any favourite Viv moments from your time following the Arsenal women?
I found her a real inspiration away from the pitch, to be honest. Even, the work watching the step-by-step documentary and just how keen she was to think, I've got a good sort of 7-8 months out of the game here, but I'm not going to sit about just doing my rehab and getting on with it. I'm going to really drive for positive change along with Beth Mead. And I was really impressed by that. But the one game that springs to mind is that win over Bristol City that just broke all records when she was involved in all of the goals apart from one, which was when she was subbed off and wasn't on the pitch. I mean, it's just stuff like that we won't see again because the WSL has improved so much, obviously, in terms of the standards and anyone can beat anyone now. We'll never see another game like that again. The Viv Miedemar against Bristol City. And I think a lot of fans will have taken time this week to go and watch some of those games back, look at some of the compilation videos, because she deserves it. She deserves the full send-off tomorrow. And it's if anything, it's a shame tomorrow, isn't it, the Emirates? So she could get the real send-off she deserves. I hope she starts, and I hope at one point in the game, wherever it comes, she gets that real standing ovation, because Arsenal will not see another Viv Miedemar.
No. We should say there's a plan, I believe, amongst the fan base for an 11 minutes to have a huge round of applause in tribute to Vivian Miedemar. Before we move on, just quickly, and if you could pick any club, I mean, we know the rumours Man City, but if you could pick, where do you think she would go? Do you think it will be Man City she will end up at?
Yeah, I think you'd fancy she stays in England. Be interesting to see how she works in Man City, because obviously she'd be linking back up with Jill Roord. You've got Bunny Shaw up front, who, we just know how many goals she's capable of scoring. But whenever you get a unique player like Viv Miedemar, you have to suit your system to suit her. You can't just drop her into an existing lineup, and that's something Jonas Eidevall's found. But yeah, fancy she'll stay in England. Man City would be a move that makes sense, and it would be perhaps if they don't win the league this season, that'll only take them to new heights next year. So I think that move would make sense, but it'll be fascinating to see it goes into it.
I think you did it on a key point there about the clash between the player and the system. And we know that Jonas has a very specific system that he wants to play, and the players have to suit him. And I think that's a very good point about Viv. And yeah, it'd be very interesting to see what happens next season. The two other departures, Sabs and Kalem, two goalkeepers who have very much fallen down the pecking order to sit behind Manu. Manu's had a contract extended. There are transfer rumours about a potential other goalkeeper coming for Arsenal. So this was kind of expected. This was probably less of a shock than obviously the Viv news. We'll go around the board. Lottie, Sabs, a lot of love in the fan base for her, especially after last season, but didn't get as many games this time around. Was very much a cup keeper.
I was hoping that Arsenal would let me get my words out. I was hoping Arsenal would let the dust settle after Viv, but that was just another blow that kind of I knew it was coming, but it was just too quickly after Viv. So it did make me a little bit like upset, and I was like, do you know what? She's the nicest person. I'll never forget was it the semi-final we were at, Adam?
Yeah,
when the weather was really bad against City.
Yeah,
that she had a sensational game, because that was the first real viewing we got of her, and I'll never forget that game. Actually got to speak to her post Everton, and she was just so lovely. Yeah. She's a wonderful human being, and I'm really going to miss her. But whoever does give her a new contract, you better take care of her, and she'll be hearing from the Arsenal fans.
We didn't get to see much of Sabs, but we do still love her nonetheless. I mean, Matt, she had one of the best chants in the terraces. I think even Sabs was amazed how quickly the fan base thought of a chant, and a really good chant. I mean, it does bear some similarities to the men's side. You can sort of see where the inspiration may have come from, but we've lost a great song and a quite a good keeper.
Yes, and there were probably times when you look back over the last couple of years. Well, yeah, it's been with us a year and a half. Wasn't she, even if you include the January window where she joined? I look at it as there were times where she should have really played. I'm trying to think of getting it with the Man City game last season away at the Academy Stadium. I thought she was going to be playing in goal because of how well she commands that area. The way she would have come off her line, and she would have just gone and caught both those balls that were across the ground, no problem. Instead of Manu likes to stay on the line unless she's bringing out the ball, trying to be that 11th player, trying to distribute that out to defenders or into that midfield just to give that extra option. She did push Manu, though. I'm going to say this. I think she's made Manu a better goalkeeper, and I think she appreciates it and I think Sabrina does as well, because have been times where Sabrina's been called up for Canada, been called up for the game. I think it was in the Gold Cup. She was playing in goal. She kept a clean sheet in that one. So there are things that they are learning, and you're always looking as a goalkeeper to keep on learning and keep on improving. And if you've got someone that works as hard as Manu and Sabrina, you know that you're going to have a really good, not only goalkeeping unit, but you're going to have a good defensive unit as well. And that's one of the things that probably might be looked at next season, is what's going to happen goalkeeping wise. Might have a look at the defending as a whole. But at the moment, Sabrina, thank you, because you gave some really good advice actually after that Southampton game. The distribution has come on well some balance since then. But yeah, she's a fantastic goalkeeper. I think she's got a lot of time for the fans as well. That's great to see. You don't see that many goalkeepers have that sort of time and space with the fans.
I'll come to you, Mr. Freddie, because we can't shy away from the fact that in the time she has played in the WSL this season, she has had a few wobbles. I think home and away against Man United, there were some errors. Both caused goals in the home game. It was irrelevant, but obviously in the game at the LSV, it did kind of swing the game away from us. Your thoughts on this game? Because I remember at the beginning of the season, people weren't really having Manu. They were saying bring Sabson's goal. Manu's obviously won the tussle in the end, and probably rightly so. Just your thoughts on where this might have gone wrong for Sabs. Could she have outmuscled Manu to the top spot in goalkeeping?
It is interesting because, Lottie, you mentioned that game against City in the Conti Cup last year, and she was excellent. And I asked Jonas about her after, and I said, has that really made you rethink who's your number one goalkeeper? And he said, well, I'm going to see it. Quite similar to how Mikel Arteta was sort of lining up with Ramsdale and Raya, saying we can use it for different games. And at that time, Jonas was really trying to get that clear with Sabs, and maybe that's more media talk than maybe what it is behind the scenes. And I just think that United away game was a real chance where Sabs was given the nod because tactically it made sense against United. She was aggressive. She could get Arsenal on the front foot. And I just think that mistake really set her back, the mistake that led to the goal. And it was a shocker from her, really. I think we've seen some really good moments from her this season. But I think all of you are right in that she has really pushed Manu on since the new contract as well. Manu's obviously been backed by the club in that regard. And it's the life of a sub-goalkeeper at the end of the day. You want to be playing regular football. You know, we're in an ideal world. We'd love to keep everyone happy and keep everyone in the squad. But, you know, players have ambitions. And look, the club won't be getting rid of two goalkeepers within a few days without having quite strong targets and quite strong beliefs that they're going to be able to bring people in. So it'll all be quite well thought out. But it's a shame to see them go because you're right. Both Sabs and Kaylin, both just excellent people away from the pitch.
I do want to touch on Kaylin as well, actually. I should just say it was actually Sab's birthday earlier in the week. So big happy birthday to Sabs, and also to two Arsenal legends in Jodie Taylor and Kira Grant, both who did, for different reasons, great things for a club. And Jodie is still doing great things for a club behind the scenes. So a massive happy birthday to all three of you from us. Sabs, I'll always remember that penalty save against Spurs in the shootout at Meadow Park just before Christmas. Love that moment. I mean, every goalkeeper needs that iconic moment. And I think that was for hers. Kaylin, sadly, we hardly saw because she was only really in for half a season because she was a stopgap until Sabs arrived and went to Bristol City and did her ACL. So I just want to whip a quick whip from with Kaylin. Much loved by all of us. Obviously, we didn't see more of her, but is there a particular Kaylin moment you want to sort of shout out and celebrate, Lottie?
I think it's when she first arrived. Obviously, before Meadow Park was in the state it was, you could actually stand there and have a conversation with the players post game before everybody started pushing and shoving and whatnot. And I remember saying to her, "Oh, welcome to the club, blah 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 blah." And she said to me she's really excited to get started. I think the one thing I do like about Kaylin, she does a lot behind the scenes.
Yes.
With Lotta, and that's what I'll remember her most for. Although she's meant to be playing, but it's more of her stuff she's done with the Arsenal Foundation and behind the scenes more than anything.
It would have been very easy for what eventually became a third choice keeper to just basically put their feet up and just take the paycheck. And it should be said, Kaylin did a lot of stuff with. You've seen the clips of it and the pictures of it. She's always getting involved with the foundation stuff, as you say, visiting the charities.
Like Freddie
That's fantastic.
said, she has ambition. She doesn't want to sit there and put her feet up.
Freddie, any Kaylin moments for you, or something we should all applaud her for?
Just as recently as Monday, she's probably known at that point that her future's going to lie, elsewhere of Arsenal, and she was still at the Down syndrome session, surprising some of the young players along with a few of her Arsenal teammates. I just think that speaks volumes of her. She could have easily just packed it all in this. She's out injured at the moment. She's had the loan spell at Bristol City that's not worked out because of the injury. She could be on the first plane to her new club, but she's still doing this. She's still taking the time to go and give up her time and volunteer. At the Down syndrome session, something that certainly means a lot to me. And I just think that's brilliant, and it really should be commended. And I like how Arsenal made a note of that in their press release as well. So I think it's fantastic.
Matt, any word from you on this one?
I'll probably say there's two moments. I think the first one would be when she comes to the North Bank and she starts singing Jodie chant.
Oh yes, because she was. Yes, we should say she was a bit of a player hyper as well. So she would come to us to say, "Here's a good chant. Can you get this chant going for the players?" I thought, yeah, that's fantastic. You don't get that enough. You really sort of help build that player-fan relationship. And was it Jodie Taylor in an Arsenal shirt or something like that, wasn't it?
I think she also said that Frida had her own song at Linkoping. And they wanted her to carry on, so she obviously had a conversation with Frida as well at that point.
That's right,
about it, and she just relayed it to the fans, and the fans were, "Oh, okay, we'll take it on board and we'll run with it." And one of the other ones as well was the social media where they do the alphabet.
Yes, this was my one.
Sorry.
Okay. Yes, that was my when the what was it? Zebras can come too. I mean, it's still out there if you can find it. The Wolfsburg A to Z. Getting people to come to Emirates Stadium, it's just because it's Arsenal, it's utter chaos, and I think Kaylin's words did inspire some. I think it maybe even some inflatable zebras to make an appearance. Now, a lot of love for Kaylin. Obviously, came in, probably knew the score when she was coming in, what her role would be. Did play in the Champions League against Zurich, and should also be said did play in the Champions League against Arsenal. I think it was with Kerr in the previous season and saved a Nikita Paris penalty. So, yeah. Well done, Kaylin. Thanks for giving us some amazing memories, even if your stay was shorter than we'd hoped, and best of luck to your futures. Just very quickly, with a pair of them, where do we think they will go? Rumours with Sabs is that she might be off to Aston Villa. Freddie, any thoughts where they might end up?
Well, there's a lot of an Aston Villa, sort of a lot of people going up and down the at the moment, aren't there? As for Kaylin, as you say, she came from Kurga, so maybe another move, to Scandinavia potentially, or closer to home, back to the States. For Sam, she seems happy in the UK, and maybe the opportunities would be lesser if she was to go, over to Canada or to the NWSL potentially. And there's obviously talk of Van Domselaar to Arsenal. And Sam, so I think Villa would probably be, if they were to lose Van Domselaar, I think they'd be quite happy to have someone like Sabrina D'Angelo come in. So it would make sense. I
think Sabs is a number one quality keeper. Maybe not for a club where Arsenal at the moment, but certainly for a Spurs, a Liverpool, a Villa, somebody looking to be underneath that sort of top three bracket. And I think if she went to Villa, she'd do very well. And I think Villa would be very fortunate to have her, especially, as you say, if rumours are a bit true about DVD and the release clause and Arsenal might be in for her, I think they would do quite well with her. We will move on. So much to get through tonight. The Emirates Stadium roster has increased to 8 matches next season. So fantastic news for the Arsenal. Matt, you must be thrilled with this news.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely interesting to see who's going to be coming. I think the Leicester one was a bit of one of the oddities last season because it was last minute, wasn't it? Really, compared to the others that were joined, I would be interested to see who they're going to pick. If I imagine the first game, if it's going to go as the same way as it did this time around, the first home game will be at the Emirates. I wouldn't be surprised if the last game is as well.
Would possibly depend if the Arsenal men were playing as well, would it not? You wouldn't.
Well,
unless they're playing away, and then which case you might get away with it. Yeah.
It also depends on how many events they've registered with the council as well, because in one stadium, because they're allowed X amount every season, and obviously the men's season has priority. It's the one that sells out every single game. I think it will depend on where we're at in the Champions League.
Yeah, we should be. Yeah, you raised a good point actually. If we don't get through the group stages, I
meant the men's.
Oh right, okay. but
Because
yes,
by May
yeah.
time, if we're in any form of cup, we'll be over at Wembley anyway. So
Hopefully,
that kind of doesn't matter. But if we're out of the cups, they will put more games on at the M's, like they did this year.
we should say if the women don't get through the qualifiers and the playoffs and blah blah, don't get to the group stage.
Yeah, there's also
Apparently,
that side of the coin as well.
all 11
I'm counting my chickens here.
Yeah, all 11 WSL matches will be played or will attempted to be played at Emirates Stadium. So it does feel like a bit of sort of taketh with one hand, giveth with another, but the priority is Champions League matches. And of course, if we do get to the group stage, all the home games will be at Emirates Stadium. Freddie, as a journalist who regularly gets to frequent the media section, the idea of all the games at Emirates Stadium, I mean, I've been to Meadow Park. I mean, the media is sort of fine, but it's nicer to have an interview with Jonas post-match indoors in the warmth with hot coffee on tap than freezing cold pitch side in the wind and the rain at Meadow Park.
Yeah, firstly, I'll say if that is confirmed from the club that it will be all 11 games if we don't make Champions League, so that's official. It's the Emirates in every way is, of course, for fans, it's a brilliant experience. For journalists, the club, they look after you inside and out from the minute you walk through the door. And I've spoken to other people who work at Arsenal, and it's not just us journalists who get looked after. I spoke to a groundswoman a few months ago, Megan, who was part of the all-female grounds team, and she just said straight away, you feel valued, you feel appreciated, you're looked after. And it's the same for us in the media team. And it even goes as far to sometimes if you're staying late, writing up your post-match quotes, a woman will come around with a box of chocolates and give them out to all the media. It's just little stuff like that sometimes, when you've had a long day and you're trying to finish your work, stuff like that really does go appreciated. So it's great. The Emirates is a bigger press box. It means for more media coverage. It will probably be more appealing for some, media outlets and newspapers to then send journalists to the Emirates as well, I think. And it's just good news all around. It's probably good for the broadcasters who will think they'll know it's more of an experience. It'll look better to have games on TV. And credit to Arsenal for putting that news the day after the Viv meeting.
I mean,
people at the club, they know exactly what they're doing. But it is great news, isn't it? And we really look forward to next season now.
It's been very much a yo-yo of emotions. Sort of, we've gone from Viv to the Emirates news to Sabs to then the kit news and Kalen. It's been we've had no sort of it's been mad. There's no stability. We've just ping pong from one to the other, and we will get onto the kit news in a bit. In terms of the Emirates, though, obviously record attendance has been a big thing. Obviously there's going to be a new team. So the first question is, what teams next season out of this? Obviously there's 11 to pick from. Out of those 11, we should just mention Crystal Palace, the team's been promoted to make with Bristol City's relegation. Out of those 11 teams, which 8 would you like to see played at Emirates Stadium? So if I could take Lottie, if you could give me two teams, and then we'll go around.
Oh, just the two? Are you serious? I'm not going to go for the obvious answers.
We'll piece it together.
I'm going to go for Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace, yeah.
And West Ham. They need demolishing at the Emirates.
Okay, so you would have. Okay, so Palace and West Ham are your 2. Okay, so Freddie, if you give me 2, and then we should all have an 8 by the end of it. So if we pick 2 teams to play at Emirates Stadium next season.
We're going to go Spurs just because North London. We'll be really nice to Everton and give them a nice away allocation. So we'll have Everton as well.
Okay, Everton. Okay, this is interesting. Matt, are you going to give me anything at all?
Freddie did still Everton from me, but that's fine because to be honest, I think Everton will come in their droves. They've got a huge support and a huge fan base. I will say the other side of the Mersey, which is Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say Aston Villa.
Okay, I should say Liverpool's a bad choice because we played them twice at the Emirates Stadium. We've lost both of them by an aggregate of 5 goals to 0.
Yeah, that's not a good choice.
But you say so Liverpool, and what was your other one? Sorry, Matt?
Villa,
okay. There's with 2 left. So I've got Manchester United, Chelsea, Man City, Leicester City, and Brighton as my picks. So I'm going to go for Chelsea and Man United, and that means that Manchester City will once again play at Meadow Park next season.
The thing is, they're the obvious ones that are going to be picked anyway.
Yeah.
So
we could not
it's just
pick
going to
Chelsea.
be done.
We should say Man United and Spurs.
I like playing Chelsea at the Emirates. Don't say that.
I like it. No, I'm all for Chelsea playing Emirates Stadium because we actually win that game, and we've never
exactly.
We haven't yet lost to them at Emirates Stadium yet. But anyway, Spurs and Man United were obviously record attendances, sold out attendances. So out of those 8 games, how many sellouts are you predicting, or could we sell them all out? Lottie, no. Freddie, any guesses?
Spurs and Chelsea, I think so. And
All right.
I think this season with enough warning as well, enough publicity around the games, and please a plea to the broadcasters as well. When you know that there's going to be these big stadiums, give us enough notice. Don't be doing a month before, moving kickoff times, moving days. Let's make it as possible as we can for these games to sell out, and we know what Arsenal are capable of.
But you should.
Adam,
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Spurs United.
Mm-hmm.
No. Yeah, I'm going to go for those three.
Spurs United. What? Chelsea? Did you say?
Yeah, because I think possibly Everton. I'm going to go for 4. Sod it.
What I would love is if we could get a sellout on a team like West Ham or Liverpool. Liverpool, we got 50.
The problem is this is going to sound really horrible. I don't think they have enough support personally. That's
so we're going to have to
the stadium will be red, basically.
As long as we can put our end of the bargain up. Leicester was pretty good at the end of the season. I think it would also help if we were playing in Emirates Stadium matches that had stakes attached to them. Certainly towards like the Leicester game towards the end, it was a bit sort of the writing was on the wall. It'd be nice if we were going into an Emirates game against Chelsea with the title on the line, because that could really hype the crowd up. Matt, any thoughts on which ones might be sellout? And are there any ones you would look forward to going to?
I would probably say 6 of those will probably be sellouts. So City, sorry, not City, United, Chelsea, North London Derby.
Yep.
I'm going to say Villa. I think Villa, if there was enough, I think that was one of the problems was that the away section. We
got 30 to 40,000 last season against Villa. Wasn't a great game, to be honest. Thankfully we won it, but we could crank that one up to about 60.
Yeah, thanks to Avanti West for making me late for that one as well.
Yes.
I will probably say, I'm gonna go with Everton.
Everton. Would you be in the home stand or the away stand for Everton? Because we know you have.
Oh, that is a good question, because we did loan you out to the Evertonians.
You are our honorary Evertonian. So are you in the home end
with us, or are you going to be
sit with them
in the blue trenches?
I'll be in the home end. I might have to change though if I bring a load of friends, but depends on how they want to get down there. So never know.
Thank you very much, Russell, for that. It's so great to see the games at Emirates Stadium. It's something I've been screaming for years. When I first started going to women's game, one of the reasons I didn't want to go is because they weren't at Emirates Stadium. They were at a football club, up Hertfordshire way. But I've since learned to love Meadow Park and appreciate its beauty. But also I've known we are at the point where it's time for us to fly the nest. This team is more grown up now, and so is the fan base. It's overgrown Meadow Park. It's bad enough to try and get a ticket for the final day. So this is fantastic news. I really love the ambition the club are driving. My only regret is that on the pitch, I don't feel performances have matched off the pitch in terms of what we've done with the fan base, and that's something we might get to in a bit. Moving away from Arsenal, Man United won the FA Cup, and as a neutral fan with Arsenal hat off, massive congratulations to them. First top flight trophy since their promotion. First big trophy for the Manchester United women since they were reformed, I think it was in 2018. 4 goals, I think it was 2 from Garcia, Ella Toon or Rachel Williams. I should say the Ella Toon goal is a thing of beauty. Do watch it back. It's an absolute screamer. Tottenham Hotspur
only scores worldies at Wembley.
She does. And as we all know, Tottenham Hotspur, they do get battered everywhere they go. And the reward for this is, of course, Mark's going to get a contract extension and a 1+1 deal. So he'll be around a bit longer while Enios sort of get themselves settled. Freddie, just a thoughts. Obviously, looking at this as a complete neutral, what are your thoughts on Man United finally getting some silverware, because it's been a long time in the post?
They were excellent. They really were at Wembley, and I thought they got the game plan spot on. Putting Rachel Williams up front, they've used her well when they have done this season, and a player like that was really good coming up from those set pieces. She caused Spurs problems a lot of the time, and Robert Villaham's someone he's a sensible manager, is trying to get them playing a style of play. But I think there are enough experienced players in that United team, to take someone like Ella Toon, who's played these massive games at Wembley before, into an FA Cup final. Maybe Spurs just lacked a little bit of that experience, and I did think United were the far superior team on the day. The fact they were 4-0 up so early on was great as well, because it meant I could go out and watch the Arsenal game, which saved a bit of a clash over there. But it's interesting, by the sound of it, Mark Skinner was offered the new deal before the FA Cup final, so the club could clearly say to him, this result, we're not going to put too much pressure on you. We're going to make it irrelevant of the result. And, they have backed him. They have really backed him. I think a lot of fans of other clubs, we've seen almost the mocking, we want you to stay, from a lot of Arsenal fans. Suggests the opinions that Arsenal fans have, perhaps, but United are going to back him. He has built his squad of players, even if he often complains that he'd like a little bit more from the board. But we know it's new, a bit of a new era at Man United with this, the new ownership, and we'll see how much they sort of give to the women's team. But it's going to be him in charge.
Lottie, Matt, did any of you watch the game all the way through? And who were you backing in this one? Because it was kind of like choose your poison. Okay, let me put it more tastefully. Who were you backing to lose in this one more than the other?
Do you want me to go, Lottie?
Yeah,
right,
Matty,
okay.
Lottie recovers. Who did you want to lose more, Man United or Spurs?
I would find it so funny for Man United to have lost that one, just after what was it, Adam, you were saying, was it 3? He's been in the FA Cup 3 times and lost every single time.
So he lost the FA Cup final to Manchester City when he was at Birmingham City 4-1. He then lost to Chelsea in the FA Cup final to Man United last season 1-0, and he also lost the Conti Cup final to Man City way back, with Man City's first trophy. That was 1-0. So he's always fallen short in the finals whenever he's got here. I mean, I've always felt someone like Mark Skinner, we mock him to death, and I we made our opinions quite clear. His time at Man United, where he's good enough, but for someone who's been in the game so long, I had the feeling of like when David Moyes won the Europa Conference League with West Ham. It's like, okay, fair play, mate. You've been in the game long enough. You deserve a trophy just for the hard work you've done in the game. Because let's be fair, with a lot of lesser teams like Birmingham City, he's made them punch above their weight and made them a really good unit. Whether he'll be successful in Man United is another matter. I mean, Man United are currently 5th in the league. I don't know if they can catch Liverpool or not, with goal difference and head-to-heads. But it's not been a great season from the league, but they come away with a trophy, which is pretty impressive. Lottie, your thoughts then? Which way were you sort of backing? You can be honest now, because it's all over now.
I was the idiot saying I wanted both teams to lose. So
yes.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I fell asleep before half time, so I didn't see anything.
Okay. We should be clear. The first 44 minutes were rubbish.
Yeah, no, I fell asleep before that.
I know, but the start of the second half onwards, Man United were just electric. I mean,
I do have to kind of shout out to my stepdad though. He's a Spurs fan, and I've got him into watching the Spurs ladies, and he couldn't stop going on about how much of a miss Grace Clinton was. I was like, how do you even know her name? You've watched her for 6 weeks, or was it 6 months? Like, you know who she is, but he doesn't know who Ashley Neville is, and it's like, how does that work?
Yeah, Grace Clinton obviously was on loan from Manchester United at Spurs. She's another cup final she's missed. She's been cup tied. We'll give us one of you, Freddie, before we move on. Man United now won a trophy, major trophy, only 5th in the league. Contract extension for Mark Skinner. Next season, do you think an FA Cup like this trophy will give them confidence that they can get back in the top 3 and back into Europe?
Yeah, I think so, but it's who do they displace? I think, and they have struggled when they have come up against the the top 3 this season, and the fact is that if they're not going to finish above Liverpool, then that's going to really make that question even more difficult to answer, because they have gone probably underperformed again this season. It'll be another interesting transfer window. There's obviously been more Ella Toon rumours. What happens with Mary Earps? We'll wait and see. If they lose more players, then again, it's more of a rebuilding job. It's not a bad squad, and I think it was a big statement to go and beat Spurs in that style. I think a lot of people would have thought that game might have been closer than it would be. We know Arsenal have got to be better next season. They've got to compete for more silverware. Chelsea will, it'll be a rebuild job, but they're still Chelsea, and they're gonna probably kick on. And City, as we say, will only get stronger by the looks of it. So it's how United have to make a lot of improvements if they're going to be finishing in the top 3.
We should say this season they're 5th, obviously 4th, Liverpool 4th, Arsenal 3rd, Man City 2nd, Chelsea 1st. They have not won in any of those games. They've lost all but one of those games, home and away. The only point they got was against Arsenal with 2-2 draw at the LSV. They still have a home game against Chelsea to play, last game of the season. That's what we're going to get to next. So, final day of the season, Chelsea go to Old Trafford to play Manchester United. As I said earlier, Manchester United have not came to a win against all the teams above them in the league this season. They obviously did beat Chelsea in the FA Cup. Manchester City travel to Aston Villa. So at the moment, Chelsea lead only by a goal difference of +2. Who are you backing to lift the WSL at the end in, as time recording, 24 hours time? Matt, I'll come to you first.
Okay. I think it's going to be a tough one, if I'm honest. I'm looking
Yes.
towards probably, it would be very characteristic of United to actually turn up to Old Trafford and actually win. Then again, they haven't lost there at Old Trafford yet. So
no, they lost to Man City in the season.
Yes.
They did lose that one. But no, before that game, I think they had been unbeaten. Before that Man City game, I think they'd beaten likes of West Ham and Everton and all the teams that have been there before.
Katie Zellum has this factor of being able to score every single game at Old Trafford at the moment. So I'm expecting Katie Zellum to score a penalty in that game.
Hang on, sorry, Matt, you're backing her. What?
I know. I think he's
I
seen
can't
the
help
light.
myself. I'm sorry.
He's seen Katie Zellum as the brilliant playmaker. We always knew she was playing from deep, and Matt's seen the light clearly.
I know you're fishing. I'm not going to respond to that.
Your face said it all. We win.
But you would back Manchester United to step up for this one, the last game of the season at Old Trafford.
Yes, I imagine so, especially with that FA Cup win. I think that's going to give them a little bit of a knock-on effect. Let's try and see how far we go. I don't think they've actually released how many of their players are going to go. They've got some fantastic players that are out of contract. Lucia Garcia, one of them.
Yeah, that is good. It could be the last game for quite a lot of them. So you were going to say you think Man United will get something and Man City beat Villa. And you think it'll be Gareth Taylor's Man City lifting the WSL by the end of play on Saturday?
I think the Villa game's going to be that will be definitely one to watch as well because of how you impact what happened last season. Villa just went on and scored.
They won 4-3, didn't they? Yeah.
So I imagine it could be very similar, but the only difference is no Bunny Shaw. So
yes,
if Villa get away with maybe score a win in that one as well, might end up looking at. They do need a striker.
Imagine if both teams lost and it became who lost the least. The permutations could be bonkers. Freddie, any thoughts which way you think this one might go?
Oh, it's really hard, isn't it? And even they're just saying Bunny Shaw not being available for City. It's like making me think again. I think it's going to be fascinating because if both teams take an early lead, it's going to be one manager who's going to have to be screaming at their players saying, we need more goals, we need more goals. It could just be a real ding-dong affair. I think both Chelsea and City will win, and it's going to come down to who manages to score the most goals. And I think Villa on their day could be torn apart by Manchester City when they know they've got everything to play for. Even without Bunny Shaw, I think they showed signs of it against Arsenal in that first half. And I watched Chelsea against Tottenham in full the other night, and Chelsea looked nervous. They know how to see a game over the line, but I think there are a bit of the nerves here. Emma Hayes, goodness knows what she'll be saying there. Her pre-match team talks to them, but these players know they've got the pressure of it being her final game. They want to end the season in style, but importantly, they've been here before. They've been in this sort of last day title race situation before. And basically, thanks to Sina Blackstenius, they go into it with a little lead in terms of goal difference, and it's going to be fascinating. It's just, and we're not watching any of it. We're all watching it. Dead rubber, which is just weird.
I was going to say I'm not going to be watching this. I'll be glued to my screen. I'll probably have my iPhone out.
I'm excited about it, but we're not going to see a single moment. So,
are you going to have your laptop on? And I'm assuming you're going to be in the media box on the game. Are you going to have your laptop open with like the FA player open, or whether it's Sky Go, where we're keeping an eye on the game?
I think, to be fair, I think I have so much to do in the press box, but I'm sure there'll be the scores will be bouncing around.
Someone
people will be in the crowd in front of us, and I'm sure a lot of Arsenal fans, to be honest, will be cheering on Man City, won't they? I think quite a few will be. be hoping over Chelsea. So we'll see.
I was going to say to you, Lottie, obviously we've been this idea that Emma Hayes could have final season, she could end up in nothing. And usually in the past, when Chelsea lead in the final day, they have got a point or 2 points on the board. We know a few seasons ago, we were in a similar situation. We needed Man United to do us a favour, and they didn't. And we ended up missing a league on a point. This time around, it's actually goal difference. So it is still gettable, even if Chelsea win. Are we going to see the quadruple failure rather than a quadruple success of Chelsea?
You know my opinions and what I want, so I'm not going to repeat it because everyone should know what I want and what I think of Emma Hayes by now. But I think it's gonna be really interesting because all the hoodoo around Man United not being able to beat Chelsea is now gone.
Yes.
They know they can beat Chelsea. Being at Old Trafford, I think that's going to be an interesting game. I just hope that United bring their A game because I think essentially they're the queen makers. They could make Chelsea champions or Man City champions. It's like, who's your greatest rival? Who do you want to crown? It's a bit like the Tottenham situation with Man City the other day for the men's game. But there's also the fact that it's Carla Ward's last game.
Yes, we should acknowledge that.
So, and Villa are going to be looking to go out on a high. So I don't think they're going to crumble too far. I would rather it be a City title.
Do you think we might get like an Aguero sort of moment where like one late goal just swings the goal difference back the other way right at the end? You know,
I think Ella2 needs to pretend she's at Wembley again. Give me another worldie.
And
someone like Chloe Kelly scoring in the last minute or something like that.
And I think after watching them play us as well up at the academy ground, I think Man City need to keep their heads because it got to the point in the game they were like the second half they lost their heads.
Yes.
Even like silly things from Lauren Hemp, and it was just like, what are you all doing? And they were punished for it.
This isn't the first time a WSL could be decided on goal difference. It happened many years ago. I think it was when Liverpool won it quite a few years ago. Might have been 10 years ago actually. If it goes that way and it's that close all the way to the end, would you say it's been the greatest WSL season? We say this every season, but do you think this would go down as one of the most dramatic, greatest WSL seasons ever if it's ultimately decided on goal difference, Lottie?
I think so. I love the drama going down to the last day.
Yeah.
It's the we're not in it, but it's the anticipation. Who's going to get it? Is it going to be Chelsea blue or Man City blue?
Yeah.
Certainly from the men's side, I know we're all feeling that at the moment, especially with this weekend coming. If we were involved, I don't know where my head would be at this point, but I'm kind of glad we're not.
Are you grateful that are you saying you're grateful that we're not in a title race and we're actually at a dead rubber because of the lack of stress?
Yeah, and plus the performances in like where we should have won games and we haven't done. It's if you look back over the whole season, you understand why we're not in this title race.
No. Before we move on to the game, just the last one, which is that the new home kit has been released and it will be worn by the team this weekend against Brighton. So we've all seen the release video. Great, again, we say it all the time, but great to see that it's the men and the women both being involved, both showcasing this kit. Now, I won't be buying it because I rarely buy a kit. I usually give it about 5 years before I get a new one. I'm pretty sure I'm an exception here. So, Freddie, are you going to buy the new kit?
I won't be, to be fair. I've
right.
A local non-league team, and it's literally half the price, if not, even more than that. It's just I love the club, and I'll get merchandise whenever I can, but I just can't justify spending, 80, £100 on a football top. I do think they've done a good job. It's not because I don't like them, but it is a lot, isn't it? And but yeah, nice kit, and as you say, great to see both the men and women in the video. I saw even a couple of the models who Arsenal used. People thinking, have we leaked a new signing again?
Well,
I think the poor people are just genuine models, but everyone's been speculating now, which has made me laugh.
After Foxgate, I mean, who can blame them?
I think that's a kind of ironic mention because we did have a WhatsApp conversation. Everyone thought there was an image of the girl standing in the tunnel, and there was a girl there, and somebody labelled her as Courtney Nevin, and we've come to Matt, who did we come to the conclusion who it was in the tunnel? It was one of the academy girls.
One of the academy girls. I think it was one of the under-17 players that are currently out in the Euros final in Sweden. That's tomorrow as well. So that's going to be fun and games for everyone as well.
Matt, are you going to be getting the kit, or are you just sticking with the hat?
I always end up having some sort of representation of the shirt. If I don't know if I'm going to get it yet. It's going to depend on how everything goes. I'm a bit similar to Freddie in terms of justifying the price. So I mean, I remember when I was a kid, it used to be £30 for the shirt, and then that included the printing as well. And just now it's like double that. It's insane.
It has gone a bit silly. Lottie, I'm guessing you will be getting one, and who will you be repping on it?
I am a shirt collector. My women's collection is coming along very nicely. I'm waiting for her to sign her contract first.
Right.
I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I'm going for Stina Blackstenius, but I've got my backup just in case. But I'm waiting for that contract announcement, and then I'll go and get my shirt. That's what I've decided.
We on the Stina front, all the noise and the news from all the journalists is that an announcement is imminent and it will happen. But I mean, as Arsenal fans, we've been here before.
Absolutely.
Well, we want to you, Freddie, because clearly, since you've been on the pod with us so long ago, you're obviously inspired by us because you've got a podcast of your own now, and you also have brought women's football fully front and center to the Gooner. So just to real off, you now have the Gooner Fanzine Women's Edition. For those who know, it's I'll let you describe it. But I think it's like an online version of the Gooner, and there's lots of articles from lots of really talented writers. And now you are running a podcast. I think just started, was it a few weeks ago or recently started? Yeah. And that's with yourself and is it Daisy from the fanzine as well? Yes. And you spent about half an hour talking about the Arsenal women. So just talk about both of them and sort of how do they happen?
Yeah, well, Leif Yusuf, our editor, is always, looking to push for new ideas, new content. Sometimes I have to say to him, look, I just can't fit all of this in. But for the podcast, we did feel, half an hour chat, just me and Daisy. And there's so many good long form Arsenal women podcasts. So, this one, of course, I've got to mention. I've seen more on YouTube. And so I always think, when I'm starting something like that, I don't want to just, replicate what other people have done. So let's find this sort of gap. Let's make it different. And just a half an hour, we're sort of thinking in your lunch break or on your drive to work or whatever, bang out the Arsenal news. Because the only thing is with me and Daisy, we're like all of you guys, we can talk for ages. So it's sort of challenging us to really hem it in a bit more, which is quite nice.
We need to copy your timekeeping discipline. Clearly,
excuse me. Excuse me, Adam. It's you two. I'm always reining you in the background. Don't even try and play.
No, I hold my hands up. I say, I'm terrible at it. But yes, So this is something you started very recently, wasn't it? Was it first episode came out last week? Was it?
Only in the week, and we thought, summer will have enough to talk about. A lot of the time it'll be a lot quieter than this week, where we've had our fair share of content. It's been crazy, and the women's fanzine. Myself and Leif. It was Leif's idea. Just because he'd sold the Gooner outside one of the women's games, and it was sold out within about an hour. And he said, this hasn't happened in years at men's or women's games. He had his seat like an hour before kickoff, and he's usually getting in 5 minutes before because he's still selling them. And he said, surely there's going to be this market now for this women's fanzine. And for anything, he had to persuade me and to really talk me through. And I said, well, look, I know a good few writers now. I've met a number of people, and I'll send some messages out and see if we can get on board. And the quality of the work people said was just blew me away. We're not asking anyone for any payment or anything. We're just saying, would you like to write for us purely voluntarily, get your work out there? And there's some just phenomenal content coming in. And look, we're really proud because we can, it's been edited and put together the exact same way as our usual Gooner issues, but it's all online. You can flick through it online as if you were reading the Gooner, if you had it in the palm of your hand. And that surprised a lot of people because we felt it might just be like a PDF you scroll down, but it is like just reading the magazine itself. And we're all super happy with it. Serge, who's done all the production, is just incredible how he's put it all together, because I was essentially editing Google Docs for about a month and turning people's work together. And now to see it all as it is, it's really great. And we're aiming for 4 more issues next season, but I think it's done really well. The reaction we had on social media before it was even published was amazing. We were blown away by it.
Freddie, do you think we'll ever get it printed?
It's the conversations being had. It's there's a lot.
That makes me excited. I love the Gooner, so I was like, I'll buy another one.
There's and one thing Leif said to me this week is is that more Emirates games are only going to be a good thing, because if we're selling to 3,000 people at Meadow Park, or we're selling to up to 60,000 people at the Emirates, that's only going to be a good thing for us. But the conversations are there about it being printed. But what essentially we need to see is that there is the demand for that. We're seeing people reading it. I don't have any of the numbers so far in terms of the stats and the clicks and everything, but the demand's there. I'm sure it's just it's like any sort of financial decision. It's weighing it up. But we hear you. In an ideal world, we'd have it all printed, but there's so much to factor in.
If people do want to send you anything like that they've written, or say that they have an idea for an article, how would they do that?
You could go to myself or Leif. Definitely, we always have people sort of messaging in. So it's hard just because we're sort of limited by page numbers and sort of who we ask, who we give priority to, and obviously people who've written for us for a while. But it's a fanzine. We take content from fans, so we'd love to hear from people. I'm sure something we might look at doing that's replicated in the normal Gooner is opening up a bit of a letters page, that sort of thing. I'm sure. There's so many ideas at the moment, and definitely we'd love to hear from fans, because that's what we're all about.
I had to flick through it, and it's the production quality is fantastic, and I love that there is a variance. There's interviews with the grounds team. There's personal experiences going to grounds. I think there was even like a transfer call, like not to say transfer rumors, but like who would you want to have on the team, and
Brilliant.
And even a comedy section about Joey Barton, which was very amusing. No, 100%. It's absolutely free. Do go on the Gooner and do subscribe. I mean, I'd imagine that the subscription numbers have gone through the roof for this sort of thing. I think it just demonstrates there is such a thirst for knowledge and information and reporting around the Arsenal women, because it's been, I don't want to say it's been left to myself, but the men's team has always taken priority for so many years. And it's just great to seeing more and more coverage. And so often the coverage is like podcasts and press stuff. It's just generic across the league. That's not saying it's a bad thing, because it's great that all teams in the league get coverage. They need it. But it's great to have a specific, solely Arsenal-based news form that just dives into all the different bits of the Arsenal women. And it's great for not only fans who are already there and we're preaching to the converted, but for new fans coming in who maybe don't know who some of the players are, don't know how, don't know Meadow Park, don't know who the grounds team are. And it's a great way to sort of learn the culture as well as the team. So no, massive hats off to you, Freddie, and Leif and everybody there, and all the writers who contributed. Absolutely top work. And we do need more of it. Before we move on to the game, we do have to talk about the season, because we mentioned earlier, Chelsea and Man City, they're the ones arm wrestling for the title final day of the season. We're not. If we win, fingers crossed, against Brighton, which we'll get to in a bit, we'll end up with 50 points, which is more than we got last season. It's a third place finish again. We've lifted the Conti Cup. We've beaten Man City home and away for the first time in the WSL, and we battered Chelsea at Emirates Stadium. But we are third, and we're not winning the league again, and we didn't even get in Champions League, and the FA Cup was out before we even started. Where do you sit on this season overall?
Oh, it's a tough question, isn't it? And more points definitely, but that does become easier, when you aren't in the Champions League and you don't have to battle on that front. And it does feel like we're going into the final day in pretty much the exact same position we were in last season. But last season we had a host of injuries, and we'd come into it off the back of getting to the Champions League semi-final. And obviously this year the qualifying tournament fell at a really difficult time just after the World Cup. Still, I think UEFA, the system was wrong, and the fact that Arsenal and Wolfsburg, the two semi-finalists, were knocked out before the tournament had even started. And I think that's definitely something that needs to be looked at. And now I know for a fact Arsenal will be taking this tournament. Not that they didn't take it seriously, but they're certainly going to, they're planning ahead already. They're thinking about it. There's talk that the mini tournament could be hosted by Meadow Park as well. The Boreham Wood chairman's come out and said they're looking into it, which should certainly be a positive for Arsenal to have that on home soil. And it is difficult to assess because the Champions League, it felt like it happened almost a long time before the season, the Champions League exit. If you went out in the group stage, you can maybe be a lot more rational about how you assess the season. But it felt like almost it was a pre-season tournament. It felt like pre-season friendlies, and that was our pre-season. You go out on penalties, and that can happen. The Conti Cup win, again, maybe saved the season in some ways. The FA Cup, very similar to last season, frustrating. But, we have had more of a squad to work with this season. We've brought in some real quality. We've had the injured players coming back, but I think it's easy to say they should be back to the best. Like we mentioned earlier with Viv and Beth, it doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen that quickly, and you can't rush players back. And there was also a part of Arsenal last year that they were really galvanised, if you like, by the players being out injured. It really drew the squad together a little bit more. I just think next season it is make or break. Arsenal backed Jonas Eideveld very, very early on.
Yeah.
It has to be a Champions League, firstly qualifying, then out the group stage and competing in the WSL. Chelsea are going to have to make changes. They will take time. City, I think, will continue to be stronger. I think they've probably proven a lot of people wrong this season. But, this is Arsenal women we're talking about. They can't continue to challenge at the top of the WSL table. They simply have to. They've got the players there. Maybe they'll look to bring in a couple more in the summer. But it's also testament to how strong the WSL has become, because Arsenal have really worked in terms of these big games against the big teams. They've beaten the Chelsea, Cities and United, but they've fallen against some of the lower teams, the Liverpools and the West Hams, and that's probably where the frustration will come from. So it almost feels like opposite in that to last season in that regard. But maybe it's a case of the dust settling and maybe a little bit longer into summer to really fairly reflect on the season, but I think it is a frustrating one on the whole.
I mean, it's weird that we've gone from like a frustrating season and we've won a trophy. Like when I jumped on this train in 2019 as it was, for the first few years, we weren't even winning trophies. So I mean, it's Conti Cup, that the memories of that day will stay with me forever. But I agree, the league form, again, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We finally got over our thing about we're winning against the big teams and winning against the big teams away from home, and then we're losing the next day away at Spurs. We should say with Jonas, I mean, opinion online, I mean, you shouldn't maybe judge online because you know what online is about, but it's fair to say, I think at the end of last season, I think people were sort of okay with Jonas being in charge. I think at this season, the discourse says to a quite a long way towards not so happy with Jonas. I mean, you can say if you're Jonas in now if you want, is to put your flag in the ground. But next season, he's going to be there next season. If it starts as badly as it did last season, is it warranted that his job should be seriously under threat? I mean, if it goes that bad, should he be? Is this season make or break for him? If he doesn't challenge the league properly, if we're third place again, scrabbling for cup finals, do we say thanks, Jonas, but we need to look at somebody else now?
Oh, it's really hard to tell. It's really hard to tell, but even early this season, you're out of the Champions League, you lost to Liverpool, and before this season, of course, we knew that no one had ever won the WSL losing more than 3 games, I think was the stat, and that's going to change this season. So we all presumed at that time, losing 1 already is going to be really damaging, and ultimately it has been. But Arsenal have backed him, and I think it's a 3-year deal for Jonas. Whether they've made the move, depending on how the season did start. But I think it's also, sort of visualizing how it would start with another Champions League knockout. In that qualifying tournament, you couldn't sack him just after that. But if you were to start the WSL, I think the difficult thing is, in a 20-game Premier League season, is that you can lose a few early on, you can go on a bad form, but you can turn it around. In the WSL, there just isn't the time for that. You have to become a real winning machine. And even if that's slightly changing, a little bit with the competitiveness of the league as a whole, it's still so damaging to start the season badly. But I think Arsenal, if they do start well, they go through in the Champions League, they have a good summer. Let's remember the players have got more time to rest this summer. Of course, Arsenal did have a lot of players at the World Cup. And yes, other teams have that problem too. But, whether Arsenal will be ruthless, we'll have to wait and see. I think Jonas will probably see out the season. And at that point, the club will have to make a decision. But it's all hypotheticals at the moment.
I'm of the opinion that he's had long enough now. This will be his 4th season. I mean, Joe Montemurro got 3.5. If it doesn't work next season, when you argue there's been enough space between the ACLs and what's happened there, if it's not going to work next season, it's not going to work at all. And so this is the proof of, does Jonas's method, his way of playing, is it A, compatible with WSL, and B, can it be successful win trophies? I think for me, he has to, I think simply winning with WSL, it's so open to variations and fluctuations of what can happen in the season. But if he's not challenging or being like what Man City done this season, up until long into the end and not coming with a trophy, I think at that point you go, But I'm willing to support him because he has brought silverware in, and we are winning against likes of Chelsea, Man City, which I didn't used to see. We will move on to the game now. The news. Well, there was a press conference earlier. I'll come to you on this a bit, Freddie. The injury news so far is Lottie is out, so she's now been out for the season. Sadly, we don't know what the reason is. Hopefully, whatever it is, if it's a problem, it's resolved quickly because she's a crucial player and will likely win Player of the Season. Viv, hopefully fit. I believe you reported, Freddie. So hopefully she gets some time to play on the pitch because it's going to be a send off. Freddie, at the press conference, Jonas, unsurprisingly, grilled quite heavily on the Viv front.
He was, and look, we're still at a position where perhaps if Jonas is on Sky Sports speaking later in the summer, maybe you get a little bit more out of him in terms of the details about Viv. He'll pay a bit more of a tribute to her. Let's not forget we're still at a position, we're not at the end of the season. He's not going to want to go into the raw details of the conversations he's had with Viv. We can't expect to go in there and for him to say this, and this are the reasons why. This is how Viv reacted. We know Jonas and Emma Hayes. I've sat in Jonas press conferences and then Emma Hayes press conference. They're very, very different. Jonas plays the media in a very different way. He doesn't give a lot, out. Certainly when I ask him particularly, he doesn't seem to ever give me any sort of quotes or lines. And that's just how he is as a manager. Managers, react to the media in different ways. Good to hear that Viv is in contention to play tomorrow. Just being heartbreaking if she couldn't get any minutes, and she trained again this afternoon, and we hope to see her start tomorrow. But yeah, an interesting press conference. He obviously tried to pay tribute to Viv. He praised Lottie rightfully, who I think will be awarded the Player of the Season. That's certainly a decision I'd agree with. But also Jonas will speak to the press again after tomorrow's game, where maybe again I'll have the chance to speak a little bit more about Viv. And also perhaps tomorrow Arsenal will also put Viv up for questioning with the media, and that'll be good to talk to her and hear her side of the story. Whether they will or not, I can't give you any information there because it is down to who the journalist sort of asked for. But she'll be top of that list, and we'll see if we get the chance to speak to her.
Should say you've spoken about Emma Hayes' press conference as well. I suppose we should be grateful that Jonas didn't decide to break into poetry and to try and discuss the departure of Viv. So we will go through the teams and what we can expect with the team. And as I said, it's a dead rubber. So what are we going to expect? Lottie, what are you expecting from this one? I mean, last season we lost 2-0 at home to Aston Villa we were
on our knees. I'm not expecting us to lose. No. I'm not going to part with it this time. I think.
What do you want to see?
I just want an Arsenal win. I want to go out on a high. Obviously, I'd love to see the very last Vivian Miedemar goal to be at Meadow Park.
Yeah.
Dream. Whether Jonas will give it to us or not is a very different story. I just want to go out on a high. We've got injury front. It's not that bad, but we're also not on our knees like we were last season. And I fully went into that game expecting to lose with the form of Rachel Daly at the time. And it's just like, okay, let's just get this game done. Season's done. Reset. Let's go. So, but I want to go out on a high, and I think that'll be me. I'll be happy.
Matt, any thoughts on this game? You'll be obviously watching from beyond. What are you looking out for? Anything for next season? Looking for a Cara Cooney cross goal would be nice.
I'm just looking at Brighton's last couple of fixtures away from home. They lost both. Well, they lost to Villa and they drew to Tottenham. So that just tells you the sort of form they're in. I think if this is going to be one of those games, you'd probably look at it as maybe a rotation for next season. I think we'll probably see Sabrina in goal for the last time, if I'm honest.
You think Sabs will start this one?
I think so. No, Freddie
or Kaylin.
It's just
Kaylin
won't be able to because she's still
ACL.
recovering.
Yeah.
But I just think it'll be nice for some of the players that are leaving to actually get their final opportunity. I imagine Viv will probably most likely start from the bench, if I'm honest in this one. If I had to go through the entire team, I imagine it's going to be Sabrina, Leah, and Leia.
I mean, I'll get onto the team news in a bit. We'll go for the teams in a bit. But I was just going to say, if there's a penalty, do you give it to Viv?
She doesn't like penalty.
I know. I mean, she's someone who has never scored a penalty for Arsenal. I don't know if it would be a good or a bad thing if we blemish that record of her scoring a penalty in her last game. But I do wonder if the opportunity came up, if she would be given it. I hope she does score. I mean, I was there for a goal against Liverpool. It was an amazing moment. But I'd like to think that she would give something to the home fans who have supported her for the last 7 years. And if she got the moment to tap in, maybe later on the game, I think the problem is I would like her to start. But if she gets subbed off, there'll be quite a nasty reaction. Whereas if she's on the bench, people will be annoyed and be worried that she won't get on at all. I don't think she's fit for 90 minutes.
I think there'll be a nasty reaction either way.
Yes,
People aren't happy.
My fear is that my fear is that they'll be booing. Like if Jonas starts doing his speech towards the crowd at the end, I fear people will boo him, and I don't think that's fully fair.
I think it's going to be. I think if anything's going to be ruined tomorrow, it's going to be the Jonas outers that are going to ruin the lot. There's going to be a backlash, and I'm really hoping there won't be, because it should be about Viv, not about him. You've got enough time to deal with him next season. Just remember, tomorrow is about Viviana Miedema.
Please use this time to celebrate Viv. Because this is the last day of Viv. Don't waste it and smear it by slating the manager. He's going to be there next season. Plenty of games to do it then. But let's just keep this game purely about Viv, as it should be. Freddie, I want to flip over to sort of the Brighton side. 12 defeats this season. They are 9th, could finish between 8th and 10th. They invested big in the summer. They brought in the likes of Paul in Bremer. They brought in the likes of Vicky Losada, and they are nowhere near the higher order. They sacked their manager, Mel Phillips, in February. Disappointment of the season?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Melissa Phillips, probably the face of it, we all thought that's a bit of a surprise. She seemed to have got a squad in together, but then when you actually delved into the form and some of the games that actually played, it was one that made sense on paper. Melissa Phillips moving on. And yeah, it's another disappointing season. They're a forward-thinking club. Obviously, there's talk about making their women's only stadium, which is, I'm still not quite sure why we can't just head down to the Amex, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's a weird one. I mean, I'll happily go anywhere other than Crawley Town's sort of leg room crushing press box, but that's a weird one on that front. But they are an ambitious club. Mikey Harris is a manager who no one's really heard of before. He was come in from sort of the men's academy game. But like you said, they brought in some big players. They've spent big. They have, raised down eyebrows over the last couple of years, but they've just not really been able to back it up. They'll be looking to do another sort of Aston Villa on the final day, but I think Arsenal they'll be motivated to go out in style. And I think the only risk with Viv is that she's almost so humble. You talked about if she'd get a penalty, she almost won't want this day to be about her in a way.
No.
Exactly. Again, you're right. The fans have really got to play their part and make sure Viv knows, just how loved she is at Arsenal, because she really is.
I mean, she signed off with a hat trick. We know exactly what she would. She'll just be very nonplussed, arms folded. Just saying, hat trick, like the Viv of old. It's going to be an emotional day. I know there's going to be lots of tributes in the stands, devoted to Viv, lots of flags and banners. And please use this, because we've had 7 amazing years of Vivian Miedema, and let's make sure that for every minute of that game we make it about her and give her the farewell that she deserves, because, as we said in the previous pod, one of the finest, if not the finest striker, certainly the WSL era, one of the best striker we've had at our club. And I can't believe it's over, even if all things must end at some point, I suppose. We'll go through the lineups. I think we're all thinking Viv's going to start this one. Yeah, good. Okay, so we've got Sabs in goal. I think some of this is in your discourse. So we'll go through, what's your back four, Lottie?
From the right, I'm gonna go for Fox. Leia Cadena. And Steph Catley.
Cool. Freddie, can you give me a midfield?
I think I'd like to see Cooney Cross give it another go. I think it's that stage of the season where I think a few more minutes for her. She'll likely travel to Australia as well. Of course, going back to her former country, not former country. She's not chained. And it's been a long day. And I'd like to see her given minutes. I'd like to see Little link up with Viv. I think sort of a one last dance, they go out on the pitch together as well. As for Viv, I think it's completely down to fitness and down to sort of the best way of sending her off. As Lottie made the point, one way or another, if she doesn't start, people will get annoyed. She will come on. If she's fit, she'll be in the squad and she will come on. And if she comes off the bench, maybe that'll be the best way she'd like to. But I also think if she's subbed off, say after 70 minutes, she gets that sort of standing ovation. There's going to be the chance to pay tribute there, but also we still have a game of football to play. So I think it'll just be Jonas looking at how fit she is more than anything and how many minutes that she'll be able to play. But of course, if she's fit and ready to go, it'd be great to see her start.
So you think Little and Cooney Cross pivot, Viv at 10?
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Okay.
And I think just because the way of the world at the moment, as Arsenal have been doing for the last few games, probably Stina up front, just in terms of let's get this contract over the line, keep her happy, and also gives the fans the chance to sing contract for Stina again right in front of her. To highest volume, and I think Arsenal can't go wrong really by starting her at this point.
Matt, do you agree? Stina up top, and who would you have on the flanks?
Yeah, I would have Stina up top. I don't have an issue with her at the moment. The fact that she scored 2 against City helps quite a lot with that sort of issue. I think we will probably see Beth, definitely.
Yep.
I will probably say, so you've got a choice of Katie, Chloe, or Caitlin.
Caitlin, yeah.
And at the moment, he's sort of favouring Caitlin, isn't he? So I imagine it's going to be Caitlin, if I'm honest.
Okay. I mean, I would like to see Lacasse given a run out, but I can certainly imagine, especially if we start with Catley, he'll go with Ford. We are coming to the end of our final preview. It's been emotional. I mean, and I thought I was going to have tears tomorrow, but there you go. Before we do, we'll just go through the score predictions. Freddie, I'll give you first dibs. What's your score prediction?
3-0 Arsenal. I don't think Brighton will pose too much of a threat. I think there'll be goals there for Arsenal. Maybe one of those games that's wrapped up quite early, and we'll get the emotional stuff done, won't we? It'll be a long day certainly, and hopefully an enjoyable one at Meadow Park. I'm really looking forward to it.
I am loving the optimism. I'm thinking back to when we had Villa in our last home game of the season, not last season, but the season before, and we won like 7-0. And it was just a procession. Just everybody's like, who wants a goal? You can have a goal. Yeah, Stina goal. Nick Paris score for Arsenal. The only WSL goal we got from her last game. Lottie, any rise on 3-0?
Yeah, I'm gonna go for the 4. I'm changing my scoreline completely. The first time this season I changed it.
All right.
No, second time because I changed it for City. So I'm going 4-0 to the Arsenal.
4-0, Matt. Oh,
helps if I don't mute myself.
Yeah, yourself.
That's my job.
Everyone has sort of stolen my scoreline, so I'm going to go one up everyone else. I'm going to say 5-0.
Right. Okay, 5-0. Okay, I'm going to go full Arsenal and embrace 1-0 to the Arsenal, and Viv gets the only goal. That's that's the way we sign off, and then people can go, see, told you we should have kept Viv. She won us the game. That concludes this season's preview podcast. Thank you, everyone, for guesting on, for my co-conspirators. Freddie again for obviously jumping in, and obviously for you lot for listening. Thank you so much for the views, for the subscriptions, for the follows on our pods, for the comments. We do read them and we do love them. Thank you very much for joining us on this season, and best of luck at the weekend. Hopefully it all goes our way. We give Viv the send-off she deserves, get 3 points, and then we can look forward to the summer of peace and tranquility of transfer windows, because they're not dramatic at all. Exactly. Thank you, everybody. Before we go, I should say, quick shout out for your socials. Freddie, where can we find you?
At Cardi Freddie on Twitter, and also drop the Gooner fanzine a follow as well. We should say if you want to read the online Arsenal Women Gooner, it's the pinned tweet, and if you go onto our website as well, it's the link is everywhere. So go on and have a read if you'd like to.
Absolutely. Lottie, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Lottie_AWFC.
And Matt, where can we find you?
You can find me at Matt'sLR28. You can also follow the pod at VAW Pods.
Absolutely. And like I said about the videos, do give that pod a follow, because we don't just do pod updates. We do obviously put bits of news and share out news that's been put around in the Arsenal world. So thank you to everybody who's been following that, and hopefully we'll follow throughout the season. And if you want to follow me and all my absolute nonsense and twaddle that I post on Twitter, I can recommend avoid at all costs, but that's at Adam Salter 4. And if you'd rather, and I highly recommend, like watching the Arsenal women, and season's off, there's no games about, I want to watch an old Arsenal game, check out the Arsenal Women Archive at the AW Archive. Lots of old Arsenal games coming up through the pipeline, so do give that a follow and keep notifications on, and never know, there might be a game dropping in your inbox very soon. But that's it. That's the end of the show. It's the final preview show of the season, all games previewed. Just got to wait until this one's done, and then it's off for the summer break. So let's hope for calmer waters. But until then, come on, you Gunners.